new CSS properties that can help our visual effects of our website. So the first one we're going to look at is the background clip property, and it would look something like this in your CSS code. The property is background-clip, and then we have 3 potential values. So I'm relying on the W3C schools to outline this for us. So if you go to W3C schools and you ever look something up and you see try it for yourself, often it'll show you sample code and what that will look like. So if we have a background clip with a value of border box, this is what that looks like. Notice that the background goes all the way to the edge of the border. If we have a background clip with a padding box, notice it goes right to the edge of the border. If we have content box, we have a little white space in between. That's our padding that we have set there, 15 pixels, that appears in between our background and our border. Okay, so those are the 3 potential values of background clip. And if you forget, you can always go back to W3C schools. The next one we're going to look at is background origin. Background origin also has 3 values. Padding box would look something like this, where it's just right at the edge of the border. Border box would look something like this, and then content box would look something like this. Okay? And then one more property, we have the background size. If we do background size auto, the background image is going to be displayed in its original size within that content. Okay, so this is in an ID example 1 that's established right here with this div. So it's only going to fill up as much space as that element will allow, showing just a little bit of that picture. So you see, really all we're seeing is just this part of that photo. But if you have the background size set and it has 2 values, a vertical and a horizontal, so the first one is the horizontal, the second is the vertical, then it will restrict the size of the picture. You could also put percentages here, so you could do like 50% and 50% or something like that to shrink your image down. So that is background size. So those are 3 new CSS properties. Let's look at doing a background for this header, this Lighthouse Bistro, and then rounding the borders, so to create a more rounded edge. Let's open HP 4-10 and 4-11, and you only need the index page, so HP 4-10 and 4-11. And in our style section, we want to work with the H1 so we can do a quick glance, and we do not have an H1 selector already, so let's create one. And through the magic of technology, I'm going to fast forward this so you don't have to watch me type all this, and then you can pause it and copy it over. Okay, I've added the highlighted code to our H1 selector. In the curly brackets, we have a background image. We have a background repeat, no repeat. The height and width are set. We changed the font size, added some left padding and some top padding. That gives us some extra white space. We have a 1 pixel solid, almost a black border. It's a dark navy blue. And then we have a border radius set to 15 pixels. So once you have that, you can view in a browser. And now we have this lovely rounded edge border. Now if, for instance, we increase this border radius to say 30, what do you predict will happen? Let's check and see. The higher the border radius, the more rounded your edge will be. So if we had a border radius of only maybe 10, what is wrong with my mouse? And we refresh, you have a much sharper edge. Let's leave this open and work on our next project, where we are going to learn about the box shadow property. Let's pop open W3C schools and search for box shadow property, and just pause my video and take some time to play around with this website. Down here is the syntax for the box shadow property. These are potential values, and then here's what they mean. So like horizontal offset, it's the horizontal shadow. the vertical offsets, the vertical shadow. It tells you about putting positive or negative numbers and what will happen. And then if you click here to play it, then you can play with different options to that box shadow property. For instance, if a box shadow had a value of 10 pixel gray, it would look like that. If it had a value of 20 pixel, 50 pixel, 15 pixel gray, it would look like that. So you can tinker around with this website and get a feel for the different values that you can use for the box shadow. Let's revert back to our Lighthouse Bistro page. And we're going to, in our CSS, create a new container. So right below your H1, we will create an ID. IDs start with hashtags. And again, let's let the magic of technology type all this out for us. Okay, pause my video and you can copy the code over. We haven't done anything new, just a background color of white, padding 20 pixel. We set a width of 80%. We set a min width and a max width, meaning that our browser content will never shrink below 800 pixels, but it will never get wider than 960 pixels. And then we did margin left and margin right auto. What do those do? Do you remember? If you said they center your content, you are correct. That's how we're going to center this container. This container is going to encapsulate our entire body. So just right after the body opens, let's insert a div and assign it an ID of container. And then we'll take this closing div tag. I'm going to cut it. We're going to take this closing div tag and put it right before our body closes at the end of our document. Okay, so now if we do a quick refresh or view in the browser, this is our container here, this white box. Okay, so let's see what happens when we create a box shadow. Let's go back to our CSS inside that container, and we're going to add a box shadow of 5 pixel, 5 pixel, 5 pixel, hashtag 1E, 1E, 1E. There we go. Okay, let's refresh it and see what that looks like. So as we refresh, notice the edge of this white box to the blue, and now you see what that box shadow property did. So it kind of makes it look more three-dimensional. We can also do a text shadow, so let's see what happens if we added a text shadow to this H1. So let's go to our H1. Okay, had a mistake, but I went ahead and typed the text shadow and its value of 3 pixel, 3 pixel, 3 pixel, and FFF. Remember, if all of the 6 digits of the hexadecimal value are the same, you can truncate and only put 3 of those. So let's refresh our page, and now we have this white shadow. If we also wanted to add shadows to this H2, we could do that as well. So find your H2, and in that one we'll do a text shadow of 1 pixel, 0 CCC, and refresh, and now we have a little bit of a gray shadow in our H1. Okay, make sure yours looks like mine, and if so, kudos.